Good morning everyone, I'm Sue Cook, as many of you know. Now, as you know, I've been a therapist for nearly 30 years. I trained in homeopathy and my entry into neurodevelopment came as a result of my son being diagnosed with severe dyslexia and being told that there was nothing that could be done. What I discovered instead was that dyslexia, for example, isn't about intelligence. It's about function, okay? And once you work with nervous system, build the developmental foundations, then you get change happening quickly. Now, going back to my son, a long time ago now, he was 6 then, 25 today, other parents started noticing what we were achieving, and then practitioners started to notice too, and they wanted training, so I trained them. And the work expanded, so children, adults, dementia prevention and all of this. The consistency that's been running through all of this is that if you nurture the nervous system and you create safety, then from safety you can build capacity, and when you've got capacity, function follows. And this work has grown because of the need for it. Now, one thing that I've noticed, but I don't think people really put into words, is that people aren't shown how to work with their dysregulation. They're just expected to be able to function as if their nervous system was completely fine. And so that's why we get great deal of anxiety compounding on top of anxiety, and that's why we get children refusing school, because there's not understanding that they are already pushed to capacity. When we're dealing with dyslexia or severe anxiety or something like that, what people need to understand is that the person isn't broken, they just need the right map to grow. So understanding neurodevelopment is crucial because it shows us why learning, behaviour and emotion look the way they do. So if you're only looking at other areas and you're leaving out all about the nervous system, then you're going to miss this whole area, that then their nervous system does not feel safe. And a nervous system that does not feel safe, you can't learn, you can't focus on other things because you're embodied at that level. So that's why when we do neurodevelopment, we build capacity, and then you get the function to be able to work in a classroom or get your emotions grounded. And dysregulation these days is so common. And when you look in it from that perspective, you can see why behaviours are the way they are. And that's just what I wanted to say about that. Working with dysregulated nervous systems. So when children are forced to sit in a classroom all day, when they don't have the capacity to do that. So let me give you a very practical example. Okay, so when you're sitting in a classroom all day, it's just assumed that your physiology and your neurology can cope with looking at a board, then remembering what you've read, looking at your paper, writing down what's relevant. Okay, now if your eye tracking, for example, excuse me, has only got, say, 30 seconds of tracking capacity, or if your pupils are too big, there's too much light going in and you can't even focus on the board, or if your 3D vision's not working and your eyes are getting really tired fast, you literally may only have 30 seconds of capacity, and yet you're expected to sit in that classroom all day and do what is required of you. So when we don't understand that children are working within their capacity, we're not going to be able to understand their reactions. So dysregulated behaviour isn't bad. It's just a nervous system signalling distress. But when we support a child's nervous system to grow and to regulate, then their capacity extends. And that's why we need to observe. So we observe, and then they do much better. The importance of co-regulation as a therapist. Now, when I go to clinic, I generally wear dark clothes. I'd never wear perfume. I keep my voice calm, my demeanor calm, and I make sure that I am in a good place neurologically, because there is such a thing as co-regulation. You may not know about that, but I can explain it to you so easily that you'll understand it. If you think about if you have a cat, it's usually cats, it can be dogs as well. Imagine your cat comes to sit with you. Cats have got a really well-regulated nervous system, and they come and sit with us, and if we aren't well-regulated, they calm us down. Their regulation, it's like it leaches into us. How fantastic is that? And it can have this amazing calming effect. So, co-regulation. Now, think about when somebody really angry walks in a room, it's a bit, don't like that. Or if somebody whose behaviour is uncomfortable for us, we don't want to be picking that up. We don't want people like that dysregulating us, especially if we're already dysregulated. Okay, so that is just an interesting point really about how our environment can affect us and how the right things can calm us down. So the practitioner, me, is part of the intervention when they come in. And another thing is, we do not work with speed. This is about depth. So when you're building capacity into a nervous system, it's about regular, every day, build, so that we can get those foundations really strong. There's no quick fix for this. We just want to take our pace slowly. And when I have seen, say, a little one for their first appointment, and the second appointment's usually about 6 weeks, but it might be a month, it might be longer, because we're going with how they are. We're letting their safety and their nervous system guide us as to when a follow-up is necessary. So we work at their pace, because then there's no pressure, and we don't want people to feel pressured. Stories of transformation. So many times, because I've worked with thousands and thousands of children over the years, and teenagers and some adults, transformation comes when capacity is built into the nervous system, and then function follows. So let me give you an example. I mentioned earlier about the tracking. So if you only got 30 seconds of tracking, then you're going to really struggle in a classroom. If your pupils are too big and there's too much light coming in, it's uncomfortable. Or if your depth perception's not working, so if I hold up a finger, I can easily touch the top because my 3D vision is working. But if I close one eye, so I haven't got 3D vision, it's much harder to find. So, and that's the same as if your eyes aren't yoked and working together. You can't judge distance. And that can be a real problem for children. For example, if you're on the sports field and say you're playing rounders and you're in deep field and the ball is coming, and you've got to try and run along and catch it. But you don't really know where the ball is because your eyes aren't functioning correctly. The ball's just going to plop on the floor, and it's not going to make you feel good. Whereas if you've been building in your capacity, your eyes are working together, your tracking's good, then you've got a higher chance of being able to catch that. So not only does doing neurodevelopment help with your academic career, it really helps with your sport. And that's a really good thing for children to be aware of, I think, because I think a lot of children want to be good at sport, don't they? And feel confident about themselves. So, and it's not an intelligence issue. If you're senses and their limitations, so your neurological capacity is being limited, then that's going to prevent your intelligence from shining out, because you're going to be constantly stuck in a sensory distortion loop. Whereas if we build in all of this capacity, then your intelligence can shine, and you can be your best potential self. Who benefits from training with me as a neurodevelopment specialist? Curious practitioners, practitioners who've got patients that they are not feeling like they're fully supporting, people who've got massive anxiety, any of the learning issues, anything like that, people who have PTSD and people who have a lot of trauma. They do well when they go through a neurodevelopment program, because it teaches their nervous system safety. And for therapists who want to understand why, a lot of the people who train with me are parents, and they're wanting to learn this to help their own families. So parents, educators and therapists who've noticed dysregulation in their clinic. And we work with patients, we work with curiosity and observation. All the resources I've created are an ecosystem, and they are all built on the simple idea of safety first in the nervous system, capacity, function. And this isn't theory. This is a method that works across adults, children, and all sorts of people. Trauma and practitioners can use this very safely, because it is removing a maintaining cause, as we say in homeopathy, from their case. And we're increasing a person's window of tolerance. So like the child that has 30 seconds of tracking in the classroom, when we do neurodevelopment, we build that up. We create a massive window of tolerance. And we're turning nervous systems into something that you can use practically to make them stronger. And that's pretty wonderful. So I have practitioner training. I have all my books. I have my nervous system courses. I have my supplements, and I've got more products in the pipeline to support people's nervous systems. So all in all, it's about really caring about people and doing my absolute best to support them on their healing journey. So I've been Sue Cook, and catch you soon. I'll put my details below.